Thank you, everybody who joined us this afternoon. My name is Amanda Maxwell, and I'm here with Incom Data Systems, and we're going to be talking about the keys to DevOps success. But before we get to those keys, we want to take a look at why we even need DevOps to start with. So why do we need DevOps to begin with? Sometimes there's a slightly adversarial relationship between Dev and Ops. Dev wants to change everything. Ops wants to keep things the same because change introduces risk. Tools that are brought in to support the SDLC have traditionally been for only one side of the team, either Dev or Ops. These tools are built around each team's specific needs, but they don't always reach across the entire process. We end up with tools that may help with a specific part of a job, but they don't really help with collaboration. Now we're beginning to realize that what we need to change is that relationship between these two teams. What's missing in that conversation is the business. Both teams serve the business, so they both need to work together to reach goals. A successful DevOps initiative must take into account the CALMS ideology, which is culture, automation, lean, measurement, and sharing. With culture, management buy-in is critical to a successful culture shift. If the top brass isn't on board with such a fundamental change, the chance of success is minimal. The good news, though, is that management opposition to the DevOps process is becoming less and less of a roadblock. As management gets behind the change, we all face the challenge of making one team out of many. We must break down the silos of development, of operations, and of testing to form one team with the same goals and objectives. But we have to be careful of cutting corners. There are often people who try to cut corners and give the appearance of change, but they do this without adopting the right culture architecture. This leads to failure more often than not, and the blame will be placed on the methodology rather than with the people responsible for the lack of proper implementation. The culture has to change, and it has to start at the top if you want it to last. A huge part of DevOps implementation is centered around successful automation of tasks. By its very nature, this removes human action from the equation. Automation standardizes processes and leaves less room for human error. But automation can't be limited to only one team. For optimal results, we need to equip ourselves with a technology that supports the whole of IT. We already automate plenty of things. We automate marketing, sales, HR, but we often freestyle in IT. So one person may write scripts and deploy to production, and then down the line another person rewrites them because they don't like the way that those first ones were written, and then we end up with a Wild West approach where work is being redone and productivity is lost. To fix this, though, we have to adopt a less risky approach by using automation. We can't allow our business-critical application or database to crash due to hastily pushed code with errors. And we can't lose time if we want to stay competitive in today's market. So remove these human touch points that can potentially break the system and replace them with automation. Automation is a big contributor to lean, to cutting out that fat. Lean helps us to streamline processes, and it helps us to prevent ourselves from backsliding, to going back to our old way of doing things. And because it removes a lot of the extra noise, it helps us to focus on and to communicate what is most important. But lean also heavily relies on trust. As redundancies and reworking the same things are eliminated, that handoff between teams becomes simpler. But it's crucial that teams trust each other. Trust that the code handed from dev to test to production and further down the line is as bug-free and complete as possible. Automation creates a lot of opportunity for measurement. So if things aren't measured, then how do we know if there's any improvement or if things are actually getting worse? Many of the automation tools along the DevOps toolchain throw off tons of telemetry. And that telemetry is key to your DevOps initiative because it helps you to document the efficiency of your processes and tools. And it lets you start asking the right questions to gain valuable insights. So how much time did it take to release this time? Were there any delays? And if there were, where were they? If there weren't, can we repeat this process and streamline our next release? Can I see the dial moving, the velocity increasing, the quality increasing, indicating that we are seeing success? So if you're not measuring, you can't see that dial move, and you can't take note of those success indicators so that you can repeat the process. Sharing is the heart of DevOps, really, because it ties teams together. You share responsibility, you share ownership, you can share information across processes and teams. And then we can see what's working and what isn't. And we can use that knowledge to further improve. So gone are the days of information hoarding and single subject matter experts, because that ideology harms more than it helps. When times are busy, it can end up creating a bottleneck, or if someone is out of the office or unavailable, it can bring the entire process to a grinding halt. So sharing along the SDLC breaks through those walls and those silos. So here you see a traditional model of the development cycle. So you've got the development team focused on velocity and volume of change. The ops team is more about stability and managing risk. And then the business side was focused on a large annual list of changes. So I'll give you an example of one of our clients who uses this traditional model, or used, I should say. So they're a multinational company that needed to upgrade their version of COBOL. This was a strategic and a high-risk project because the applications that they were updating supported operations in multiple countries. The ops team did their job. They secured the hardware, they determined limitations and potential issues before they deployed this new version. The dev team also did their job, and they were responsible for modernizing the language and ensuring all the programs functioned as they did previously. So everyone was together on this. They wanted to make sure nothing was broken during the deployment. And we worked with them to quickly assess their needs, to identify the complexity and impact of this modernization effort, and to help them implement these changes that they make on time and under budget. So their approach was almost there, almost where we want to be. But the catch is that even with the advantage that their planning and our technology provided, the process still took months to complete. And this was due in large part to the siloed nature of the development and operations and other teams. So even if every team member did a stellar job, got everything done on time, those silos and this traditional approach ended up slowing things down. This project helped them to realize other ways that they can improve their processes. And since then, they've continued to implement changes and get closer to an ideal DevOps solution. So like our client realized, the model needed to evolve. In fact, across the industry, it's changed and is still changing. Instead of one huge annual list of changes from the business team, they now want those changes immediately. So this new demand model changes how dev and ops deliver. Because today's sprint and delivery cycles are way different from an annual deployment, dev is more responsible than ever for the stability of the application, not ops. Dev now has the responsibility to avoid turning over things that are going to break. And ops has the responsibility to facilitate and implement these changes at a high speed. This approach lets tech leaders like Amazon and Google deliver and integrate continuously. Amazon releases every 11.7 seconds. So once code is checked in, if it passes the build, if it goes through the rounds of automated testing before going into production, then there is little to no human intervention. They trust their developers to own the stability, and they trust automation to confirm it. When we build the DevOps infrastructure, we build in feedback loops, of course. And if the build breaks, sirens go off, red flags fly, panic demos go out. But the problem with this kind of feedback is that it still happens after the fact. So by the time that there's notification of a problem, it's already out there. There's already an issue. This is where the shift left movement proves to be beneficial. Why should owning program stability fall to teams in QA, in deployment, in data center, or in other places? They're not the ones who can fix the problem. They can only report it back up the chain. So since only the developers are the ones that can actually debug the programs, the responsibility for finding and preventing them should be in their court. Coding practices and standards should give the developers confidence that when they check their code in, they know it can be built automatically. They know it will pass automated testing, and they know it can be deployed automatically without breaking things. Additionally, security should be shifted left and built into the products as they are designed, as part of the original plan, not as an afterthought. Providing for secure coding standards and peer review makes for a more secure product. But what if we had a way to make sure that the developers are so well informed that they don't break the build to begin with? So this is where sharing information and feeding it forward comes into play. Just think of everything that can impact the development cycle. If someone's working on the database and changes a schema, then anyone else who is working on a project that uses that schema should be notified. Or what if during design planning, a new security web service is chosen to swap out with the existing one? Wouldn't it be great if everyone who has written code that uses that service could get notified? It's important to make that information available and to feed it forward along the development lifecycle. The same thing applies to the ops crew. They live in a world where once the code is deployed, they can detect an error, or there could be a user complaint, or maybe there's a bad online review of something not working. So they have to take that feedback and give it to development to fix the issue. And this is still all happening after the fact, and the damage is already out there. What about if, when we're doing development and changing the architecture, we could feed this info forward to the ops team? Then they would have a heads up to change their business continuity or their disaster recovery process, anything that might be impacted by these changes. And so when we're better informed, we can then anticipate and prevent problems. So the best way to start a DevOps initiative in your company is to identify a specific project, assemble a team for it, and give them the autonomy and resources to accomplish their goal. So start with one to prove the merit of DevOps. Remember, DevOps is a cultural change, but you can't change the culture with a memo or with a conference call. In fact, if you call all the teams together and you tell them to just do DevOps without any kind of plan or guide, you're going to get pushback. People will be reluctant or resentful sometimes of a demand without any direction. But to get a true and lasting cultural change, you need to start at automation because it prevents us from going back to the old way of doing things. It helps you to stick with a new initiative long enough to start seeing results, those measurable results. Streamlined processes, improved quality. You don't have to drop features. You can deliver on time. And then all of this reinforces the belief that this is a shift to a better way of doing things. Now, we also need to make sure that we have the right tools in place. So here, typically when you're doing DevOps, these are the tools that you need to be successful. It's not an exhaustive list, but these are all really important. And you can't do DevOps without having versioning or release management or test automation. But there's one tool at the heart of everything that you do, and that's the one that provides you with the insight and a thorough understanding of your applications. Because clearly understanding the application landscape at every stage of the SDLC and then being able to share that knowledge between teams is what will give your DevOps initiative the edge that it needs for continued success. Smart TSXL is one such tool. It's made by Incom, and it gives you the information that you need to fully understand your applications and successfully deliver on your DevOps strategy. There is never a limit to the number of users that you have. so everyone involved in your software development lifecycle can access essential information when they need it. The advanced research and reporting technology helps teams to identify errors, to accurately analyze the impact of changes, and to document application complexity. It supports all languages, distributed as well as mainframe, so you can see across your application portfolio. And you can create higher quality products, quickly find and resolve issues, and decrease your time to market. You get the information and application understanding you need when you need it. If you'd like information on how we can help you with DevOps, give us a call or send us an email. We'd be happy to talk to you about your goals and how we can help you accomplish them. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.